Well, hello, everyone. This is Wilson Cole with Adams, Evans, and Ross and Backdoor Hiring Solutions. And I have on with me here Samantha, my in-house attorney and lovely daughter. And I didn't forget who you were, Sam. I was trying to do three things that...
You have four daughters. I also answer to the others' names as
I
well.
was going to say, occasionally you even get the dog's name. But what we're doing is if it looks a little casual, this is at the time of this recording, it's 4th of July weekend. I am down at my place on the Gulf Coast, and Samantha is up in Atlanta, moving into her new house. She's not moving in yet. They're doing some renovation work. So as she has workers do, she moves in the next week. They're putting in carpet. I am down here at the Gulf of Mexico, and
Got out of town before I needed your help.
you got out of town before you. I'm too old to move. But one thing that Samantha and I did a webinar, or doing another webinar here in the next week, but it was on the 7 deadly mistakes, and it's almost like the top 1%. There's a varying range of. The top 1% of income earners, make 400,000 at the bottom, and then they make, 20 million at the top. On the 7 deadly mistakes, there's different mistakes that cause bigger issues. And so Samantha and I are going to take, in our opinion, the 2 top that we see quite a bit that become a real issue for our clients. And the first mistake is they don't get something signed. You got to get a contract signed. More and more states are requiring it, to even bring suit. In others, you're not able to, in essence, enhance the amount that you have. Samantha, there's one account that's coming over to you here in the next week or so where our client is owed $320,000, but I'm concerned we're only going to be able to get him about $30,000, and let me explain why. He was providing high-end consultants, and they owe him right now about $24,000 on past due debt. In his contract that is unsigned, it basically says, hey, if you cancel, you owe us a 24-month cancellation fee. Client never signed it, and they're wanting us to go after that 24-month cancellation fee, which would take it from $30,000 up to the 300 whatever $1,000. How can we argue that without that signed contract?
I mean, you would really have to, it gets into a he said, she said. I mean, if there are emails where it's like, terms look great, I'm out of the office, I'll sign it on Monday. You can have arguments that those terms were agreed to, but it gets very much a he said, she said when it's unsigned. And I think also a caveat we need to be adding on to unsigned contracts is also knowing what you're signing if you're presented with the client's master service agreement.
Absolutely. I mean, I
have almost gotten to where, and anybody who knows me or has heard me speak at different conferences knows that I will do a whole song and dance and preach number on getting a signed contract. However, some of the recent master service agreements I've seen from our clients' it would be better to have an unsigned contract than some of the stuff that clients are agreeing to, not realizing what they're signing.
Absolutely. They're absolutely punitive. So basically, I guess, as it morphs into the top 2, it's actually probably top 2.5. A, get your contract signed. B, if you're not going to get your contract signed and your client is wanting to use their agreement, I would recommend having it looked at by an attorney, because they're burying some pretty nasty stuff. And I've done this 27 to almost 28 years. At this point, it's becoming almost punitive, some of these agreements. There was one that we ran into of, if you don't bring up or pursue a past due account in 6 months, it's no longer a valid debt. And lo and behold, they get turned over to collections, and the attorneys are now pointing to that agreement saying, hey, it's no longer a valid debt. So know what you're signing if you're signing theirs. The other is know who you're dealing with. I cannot tell you how many times, a lot of people think, well, I'm doing business with, and I'm just going to use an example, let's say McDonald's. And so, the McDonald's across the street on East Beach Boulevard is who I'm dealing with. Well, no, that's really not who you're dealing with. That's the franchise. It's probably, Gulf Shores Holding, Inc., doing business as, McDonald's. You have to know who you're dealing with, so if it has to go to litigation, you know who to sue and where to sue them. Sam, I know you've been on your soapbox a lot with that. Kind of explain that.
Well, we'll get clients and they're like, well, this is who we were dealing with. You have all the contact information. Well, that's great. But if they're not answering calls or you're trying to track them down, we can't sue John Smith of McDonald's in some city because you signed the contract. And usually we're even running into where they'll have the contract signed and it'll say it, but that's not the entity who you actually have a relationship with, because you'll just fill in McDonald's, they'll sign and go along. You need to know what their LLC is, because, okay, so we file suit. We now don't even know who to serve.
Yep.
And that's one where we had one out in Texas. We spent 18 months trying to figure out who the registered agent would be.
Well, and I'm not so sure that they ever did figure out, because it was one where they had 22 different entities out there, and the client wasn't sure which one they were dealing with. And the problem that you run into is if you sue the wrong entity, you open yourself up to some pretty significant liabilities. And so knowing who you're dealing with and getting the contract signed. And that's where in your terms of agreement or on your credit application, and we talk about in our webinar, go and do a Google search, go to the Secretary of State, see if in fact that company is listed with the Secretary of State, and verify that you're dealing who you're dealing with. Samantha, any last minute recommendations before I head out down to the beach?
No, I think that's it. You enjoy the beach as I am lugging boxes in after they finish all the flooring today.
And
eat some seafood for me.
We'll certainly do that. And everybody that's watching this video, join us on the 7 Deadly Mistakes video, I think, or on the webinar. I think you're going to be, I think it'll probably be the best 45 minutes that you can spend and have your people spend to build those systems to where you don't run into some of these issues that for 27 years, everybody's making the same mistake they were making 27 years ago. And we just kind of need to shed some light on it. Thank you, Sammy. Good luck with the movers and with the carpet folks. And we'll be talking later this week.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Thanks.